Welcome to Learning Life Skills Together. This is our weekly community Zoom meeting where our guests help us to go deeper into the 4 life skills and open up a huge array of chances to practice them. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Learning Life Skills weekly Zoom meeting number 44. This one is with the Reverend Michael Green, and I will talk a little more about that. But first, as we always do, we're going to have a little practice so that we can settle ourselves and sort of be ready and be open for what's coming next. So I'm going to work with this practice that we've been emphasizing a lot, the stop practice. That's S-T-O-P. And so let's start with the stop. So we'll just put a pause in here and be quiet, be silent. And maybe just, if you'd like, closing your eyes. If you're listening while driving, please don't do that. But so the S is stop. The T is take a breath and take a step back. So maybe you've been moving along all through your day, just leaning forward from one thing to the next, to the next. And maybe you could lean back just a little bit. Take a deeper breath in and let it out slowly. Maybe you want to try another one. Just taking a breath in and one more time with it. And so sometimes taking a breath like that helps us to take a step back and get out of that rushing mode and into a mode where we can take a look at how things are right now with us. So that's the O in stop. That's observe how it is with us. So just noticing what it's like around you, what's going on where you are, and what it's like inside you. So sort of touching in on how it feels. This is our emotions in a way, because we call them our feelings for a reason. We feel them right there in our body. So what are you feeling right now? Just being aware of that. So now you know something that maybe you didn't know before. And you could choose to proceed. You could choose to listen to what comes next. And so what comes next? Actually, since we don't have a live audience today, we're recorded, I'm going to ask our guest, the Reverend Green, how it is for him right now. So as you stopped and sort of checked in, what did you find? What's it like now?
It was very relaxing. It gives you a chance to, yeah, when you're going through your day, right, you do tend to like progress forward from one thing to the next thing to the next thing. It gives you a chance to pause and really collect yourself and kind of ground yourself. And instead of like always projecting forward, you get a chance to really be in the moment.
Yeah, yeah. To be present, I think, is
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
what we're after, and
Hmm.
what's so meaningful when we're with another person. This is the whole part of together in learning life skills
Right.
together, really
Right.
about to show
Right.
up present with another. So here we are, present to each other. And we're present to each other really because of what's going to happen tomorrow, um, where there is a faith and wellness event happening in Westchester. And this is bringing together people who work in the mental health, behavioral health area, and people who are leaders in faith communities all across the county.
Mhm.
And there's a lot of us that are going to show up, and I'm
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
I'm really happy about that. I think we're going to have some fabulous conversations. Um, and so the idea here is that how can the folks who are sort of on the ground running organizations to support mental health help specifically folks who are working with um, faith-based organizations, faith
Mhm.
communities, really. Again, the together piece, the being present
Yeah.
for each other. So this is particularly looking at clergy and leaders as well as clinicians. And, you know, you um, are a perfect bridge, a perfect example, Reverend Green, for what we're talking about, because you have sort of a piece of both sides of this, and I'm hoping that you might introduce yourself a little bit and talk about that fact.
Sure. Sure. So I'm Reverend Michael Green, and I am the pastor of Bethany African Methodist Episcopal Church in Parksburg, Pennsylvania. And I also am a licensed professional counselor with my own practice. And so yeah, I do. I serve as a pastor. Uh, so I help the congregation with on the spiritual aspect, and I also am a counselor. So I help people with all kinds of issues in their life or mental health issues. And so I do see people from both kind of angles.
Yeah, you see people from both angles, and sometimes they're the same people. I mean, I get
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
is
Yeah.
really what we're after here is
Hmm.
that folks inside faith communities have um, issues that need to be addressed in the same way
Hmm.
that anyone else does. And maybe there's some differences too. And so I'm really curious about that. And it's great to get a little preview here of
Yeah.
all we're going to be talking about in tomorrow. So what is it like to go in as your pastoral self to some of these kinds of situations versus approaching them from the clinical side? What are the big differences for you?
Well, I think one of the big things is that most people don't, that are maybe centered in the church, they don't realize that a lot of these resources even exist, right?
Mm.
And so they don't, so they may have they may have issues in their marriage, they may have issues with their children, whether they be adult children or school age children. And there's a lot of resources out there that can help with the issues that they're struggling with in their daily lives, but they don't realize that they actually exist. And so it's a big county, right? And
Yeah.
so you can be within your church and never come into contact really with a lot of these services. You may kind of come in contact with them maybe from a school if you have school age children, but then even then not as much. And so if you have issues in your families, like addiction, just uh, you're going through something, and you may either not have commercial insurance because you may not be working, and you don't know how to tap into these services that already exist in the county, and are able to help you, right? And so, as a pastor, it which is part of the reason why we're getting together tomorrow. Uh, it would be good if pastors were aware of all these services. So as a counselor, I'm more aware of them, right? But
Right.
but not
Yeah.
every pastor has that advantage, or has that time or whatever. And so it would be good if they make themselves uh, aware of these services, because they can route the people in their congregation to get help.
Yeah, yeah. So we really are working towards that with
Yeah.
this meeting. There are an awful lot of groups that are going to be presenting themselves, this
Hmm.
is one person after another, or one organization after another, and time to chat together and time to sounds like problem solve together as
Yeah.
well. Some round table talks
Hmm.
to really let people exchange views as well as just information. Here I am. Here's what I
Yeah.
do.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And so,
I think a major part of it is having the people from the community there, so that then they can present their issues. Uh, because just like people don't know about the agencies per se, the agencies don't have a look into the churches to see the specific issues that are going on in the churches.
yeah, yeah. And so in your sort of dual role here, when you're working with folks from a faith community,
Hmm.
are there things that you need to talk about that you don't so much need to talk about in the clinical side? What's it like, sort of engaging, I guess, with those folks
I
who may not have so much knowledge of what's out there, I guess.
Yeah, so I think there's certain stigmas that may exist uh in a religious setting that may not exist in just a secular setting, right? So one is education. I mean, medication,
Hmm.
right? So there's a perception that uh the first step will be that you want me to take medication, right?
Hmm.
All right. And so some people, there's a stigma around medication uh, uh, that has to kind of be overcome with education, right? And
Right.
and then there's a stigma around uh, psychology versus religion, right?
Hmm.
Like, oh, I just need to pray more. I need to be more devout. I need to, and so they but then, uh, if you're versed in both, then you can see where really a lot of the spiritual disciplines, such as prayer, such as meditation, and these things, they are things that God has provided for us to take care of our mental health, right? Such as taking a Sabbath, such as the stop method that you just that you just went over,
Right.
right? Right. Those things are not anti the various faiths, right? But they often are actually contained in the disciplines that are practiced in faith.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. That you can see them in scriptures.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm.
Absolutely.
And so it's really a translation a lot of the time from theology to psychology, right? And that helps people to grasp it, and it makes it more open for them to pursue seeing a therapist, seeing a psychiatrist, taking medication.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Really, really important insight there. I think the sort of
Hmm.
overcoming that barrier, that as you say, stigma, that, oh, this is not how I should do this. And
Right.
indeed, that's, once you engage, you can really get somewhere. You can help make progress. That and the two help each other. I mean, that's
Hmm.
seems to be the other piece, is that it's easier to have a more balanced prayer life when you're when you're
Yeah.
feeling a little
Yes.
better,
Yes. Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So what I want to try to do is to talk a little bit about learning life skills together, and how it is one of the ways that might help bring these two sides together. Really, because it's it's a project, I want to say, that's aimed at parents and carers. So it's meant to support our kids. It's meant to really help
Hmm.
our kids, and maybe do preventive work on mental health, to really make our kids more um, or less susceptible to some of the issues that they might otherwise have. So the life skills that we're talking about in the name of this thing are the four
Hmm.
life skills from dialectical behavior therapy. So now we're going on the psychology side, yes. And
Hmm.
they're the skills that we teach the youth who are in crisis, you know. And so when you think about that, kids who are in crisis need to learn these four skills of paying attention to what's going on around them and how it makes them feel. And then a, an ability to regulate their emotions, to say, oh, I'm noticing how I'm feeling, and I can calm myself.
Hmm.
I have some ways, I have some resources to help myself move away from that big swelling emotion that I have into
Hmm.
something that's a little easier to deal with, both for, the youth themselves and the people around them. And then this idea of, how do I get through tough times, So the technical term would be distress tolerance, yes.
Hmm.
And, so how do I get through this time where things are not going my way, and they're not going to for a while? And that's really a hard place to be in, but it's possible. And, and then finally is, how can I express myself most clearly about what's going on with me? So you can see, in a sense, those four skills kind of build on each other,
Hmm.
that I'm noticing how I'm feeling, and now I'm able to work with it, and now I can do it over time. And now, since I know what's going on and what I need, maybe I can actually express that to others. So those are the four skills. And we're saying to parents and carers, who are indeed, clergy is a big part of those carers,
Hmm.
we're saying, you, as successful adults, already have these skills. You might not define them that way. You might not be thinking of them that way.
Right.
They're right there. And if you become aware of them and become aware of your use of them, you're modeling that for the kids that you're with. And that's the best way of learning anything, is to see it modeled and to
Mhm.
see it be successful, right? So the
Right.
idea then is that if what our program does is to refresh the parents and carers in these skills and say, hey, you know, take a half hour and refresh your attention skills. Take a half hour and refresh your emotion regulation skills. So this is an online program that's free to anyone who wants to sign up, and it's very simple to sign up with just your first name and an email address, and off you go. So you can take these little courses, and they're broken down into 5-minute pieces because we know everybody's crazy busy. So if you have 5 minutes, you can brush up a little bit on one of the attention skills or techniques and work your way through, because the program actually carries you along. It moves you to the next one when you're ready. And by the way, it's made for your smartphone. So you don't even have to be someplace where there's Wi-Fi. You can do it in your spare time anywhere. So we're really making sure that it's very accessible. It's based in
Awesome.
science, but it's not about science. I mean,
Mhm.
we're not talking about the science in particular. We're talking about what it means and how it works, with you and with your kids. So we have those four basic skills, and I just wonder if you have any comments about, this idea of paying attention. The sort of the stop skill that we just did, the
Mhm.
being present piece. Um,
Yeah. Well, our whole world uh, is geared not to pay attention in many ways.
isn't it just? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it just keeps moving faster and faster with more tasks to do and more things to think about. And that's really not how we are wired. Right? Even though it's deceptive, but we were not wired that way. So often I use the analogy of the computer, right? The computer, at least the older computers, they didn't really multitask, right?
Mm,
What they did was they task switched. So they just did it very quickly. But if you open up too many windows, right, your computer will start to slow down. Eventually it will crash, right? And
I
so
remember.
yeah, and so we are kind of the same way, right? If we get too busy and we're doing too many things and doing too many tasks and having to think about too many things at the same time, we're not really meant to be that way. And it will start to have effects on our mind and effects on our behaviors and effects on our health and everything else. And it's the same whether it's children or adults. And so really we are meant to take periods where we stop and readjust and slow down and really we're meant to be in the moment. And so I think the skills that you talked about are great because a lot of the behavioral issues, often with especially young kids, is because of that. Because and then how we react to that is because of that. Like if we're so busy cooking dinner, thinking about what happened at work, and then the kid has an issue, then our patience is less, right?
Mm,
And
yeah.
and we can't manage all the stress of situations, and we may not show up best for our children during these times. So
Yeah.
if we can be in the moment and really think things through, then it helps us to show up better as parents and helps us to show up better in the world.
Yeah. And it directly helps our kids.
Yeah,
I think when the environment is one of, I'm here, I'm present, I'm doing
yeah,
this one thing, and this one thing right now is being with you.
Right.
That's
Right.
a very, very different thing than, frankly, a lot of us engage in, including myself, quite
Hmm.
often. I got lots on my mind and it's like,
Right.
oh yeah, okay, and to really show up just changes how everybody is,
Yeah. Yeah.
how they're feeling.
And
Yeah. So
and lots of times our kids they just want us to be present. You
yeah, yeah. Yeah, and so so as you say, some of those behaviors that we see, from our kids
Hmm.
that seem problematic to us are really, please pay attention to me.
Right.
Please be
Right.
here with me, you
Right.
know? Yeah.
Right.
And so part of our hope with learning life skills together is just that the skills are alive in the household or
Yeah.
in the community,
Hmm.
whoever is being the carer, whoever's
Right.
there with the kids is that change is happening. And so then there's the opportunity, of course, to share the skills with the kids and say, you know what you could try here? You could do the stop skill with me. you know,
Right. Right.
you
Yeah.
could you could take a couple of deep breaths. Let's do it
Uh-huh.
together. And so really equipping the kids with some techniques that they can use.
Right. Yeah. Because last we are when you are activated like that, I'll say all the time, then you will run in a state of anxiousness a lot of times, and then you will just be ping-ponging, like reacting off of other situations, right?
Yeah,
And not really being able, like not really being able to think rationally in a situation. You're just reacting. And so when you see often kids in school or kids at home acting up, they're reacting off of something in the
yeah,
situation that they're in. And then the reaction to that by the parent who's reacting off of them, right, is often not the best either. And then you find people reacting off of each other, and when it would be better to be rational in the situation and then you get through those situations easier.
yeah, absolutely. And the situations that we get into are really part of our thinking too in this program of learning life skills together.
Hmm.
Is that often the situation is a little bit chaotic in the household, and especially when there's several kids
Yeah. Yeah.
and lots going on. And so
Hmm.
one of the things that we think about is, how can we have some situations that are more workable,
Hmm.
that are there's not so much going on, and we can really pay attention to each other.
Right.
So, a lot of what we think about are within sort of four different big categories, all of which the activities are good for your mental health anyway.
Right.
So even if you weren't doing these skills or doing those things, it would be helpful to do something like go for a walk with your kid,
Hmm.
a couple, 3 times a week, maybe. So
Hmm.
you're just walking along, you're next to each other, you have an opportunity to talk, you have an opportunity to maybe share those skills, that kind of thing. It's good for your physical health, it's good for your mental health. It's kind
Hmm.
of you're winning on so many levels just by doing something that simple. Taking 10 minutes
Right.
to to do that. And there are so many things that we can do. We can listen to a piece of music together. You play me your favorite song and I'll play you mine right now. Let's
Right,
let's
right.
let's sit and listen together.
Mm,
What's that, 10 minutes? The songs aren't
right,
songs
right,
aren't going to be that long for
right,
most things
right,
anyway. Yeah. And so these things, if we do them over and over again, kind of as practice, it starts to get into how we live and how we
right,
work, how we think. And that's really
right.
what we're trying to do.
Right.
And
And that's
and
true of any discipline. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, I'm going to ask you with your pastoral hat on,
Hmm.
about that idea of practice.
Yeah. Well,
Oh, and
any discipline that you going to what you practice is what you become, right?
yeah.
And so if you add these things, because even if you don't have children, these things help to shape you in a better way to be able to interact with people uh, in a kinder, gentler way, right?
Mm,
And to present your best self to people, right? And so whether it's in the house of worship or it's on your job or just at the store, right? If you are if your mind is always split and divided, then you can't be in the moment to impact people's lives in the moment, right? When you encounter them, right? And so the best way to really love your neighbor is to be able to be present, right, with your
mm.
neighbor, because then you're better able to receive uh, maybe the needs that they have that you could help them with, or you could just give them love in that moment, right? But if your mind is always split, or you're always agitated about something else that has happened, then you're not going to be able to show up in the present for people. And so I think, but that's not how we come out of the box, right?
It
like
does
we,
not
like,
seem to be.
right, right.
Yeah.
So yeah, we have these instincts in our flesh, right? To use Christian language, right, that impact us, right? We have like a survival instinct, and we have other instincts in us that, like, we have a fear response system in us that get activated, and they cause us maybe not to be the best type of people at times. And so it takes practicing certain disciplines to kind of be able to stay in the moment, to be able to stay rational and think, and what is really the best way to react to a situation, to be empathetic to other people. And I think that these disciplines are, uh, along with others, are good to help people stay in that state.
Yeah. And so this is reminding me that one of the things that we talk about, in I said those big areas that we know are good for everyone's mental
Hmm.
and physical health,
Hmm.
like being outside, like experiencing beauty. I mean, we're talking
Yeah,
about each playing a song for the other, I mean,
yeah,
that's
yeah.
that's that deep experience.
Hmm.
And one of those areas is belonging. And so
Hmm.
so I think that's particularly um pointed in what we're going to be talking about tomorrow,
Yeah,
is that here are people who long to belong.
right,
They
right.
really want that. They become members of religious communities, faith communities, because they feel that that is something that's going to help them, support them, you know, um,
Hmm.
help them be healthier, more well, whatever that
Right,
looks
right,
like,
right. Hmm.
and so here we're sort of bringing these two things together. Of Here are places where you can go and belong, in the sense not of not of membership. Like,
Hmm.
we get offered to be members of all kinds of things, Netflix or whatever,
Right.
you know,
Right.
but that's not the belonging that helps us. You know, that's not the belonging that is deeply meaningful. You know, there's our belonging to the community that we're with and the community
Mhm.
that we've chosen to be in, that we want to, as you said, give love.
Yeah.
And we want to receive love in that community. And so, you know, to somehow, sometimes just putting ourselves in that situation is something that's healing and helpful, I
Yeah.
think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And all the these agencies, they are reaching out, right? Trying to help the community, and the resources are there, and you can do both, right? So you can belong to a community of faith and use just like you go to the physician, right? And so
Yeah.
you can go to, if you need to go to one of the agencies that are represented for guidance, then and mental health matters, or you need to learn a set of skills that could help you better handle stuff in your home, and there's resources available for that, then you should be able to avail yourself of them.
Yeah. Yeah. So this has been really
Yeah,
useful, helpful, I think, conversation. I think tomorrow is going to be really cool.
yeah,
I hope that it has ripples that people who are, you know, listening to our program here can feel, you know,
yeah,
and feel like they're welcome on both sides of this, you know, sort
yes,
of
yes,
that you represent.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
and yeah,
You know, there are so many ways that we can be helped and so many ways that we can be made more whole, I think. Yeah.
yeah, and
So
and I mean, it goes both ways, right? So uh, it's kind of like two groups of support coming together, right? So you have the mental health supports coming, and then you have the spiritual supports coming together.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. So I'm going to ask you the thing that I ask everybody who does a Zoom meeting with me, and
Hmm.
that is, do you have for us some words of wisdom, or if you're really succinct, a watchword?
I would say to uh, open up. I would say that.
Hmm. So a
Yeah,
watchword,
open up.
yeah.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Oh,
Because
oh,
God can help you. Yeah, often God sends us help, and unless it's packaged the way that we want it to be packaged, then we then we
mm,
sometimes ignore it, right?
yeah.
But but this could really, this what's going to happen and what's happening, because I don't think this is going to be the last thing that's done. I think it's going to continue. Uh, uh, can be a big help to
Yeah.
people. So
Yeah.
so
I mean,
open up,
I,
keep an open mind, and
I think that this idea of just bringing these two groups together receives such overwhelming response.
yeah, yeah,
There's so many people wanting to do this and wanting this to
yeah.
happen. You know, I think it can only lead to good things. Um, for everybody. So thank you so much for
All
talking
right.
with me. Thank you for talking tomorrow, which I know you're gonna do. And we will see each other there.
Yep.
And It's been wonderful spending time with you.
All right.
Thanks so much.